You might think you don't need a will or a trust yet. After all, you're not a millionaire, right? But what if I told you one simple decision today could save your family from months of stress, confusion, and even fighting after you're gone? Most people don't even realize which one they actually need: a will, a trust, or maybe even both. And here's the twist: the choice isn't just about your money. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which is right for you and why almost everyone gets this decision wrong. Number 1. Why this question even matters. Let's start with the big why. Most beginners think estate planning is only for rich people with giant mansions and yachts. But here's the truth: estate planning is for anyone who owns anything: a car, a bank account, even just a few $1,000s in savings. Why? Because when you pass away without a plan, the state decides who gets what. It's called dying intestate. And here's an example. A man in California passed without a will. His estate, worth just $30,000, was tied up in probate court for over a year while his siblings fought over it. Meanwhile, his funeral costs went unpaid. Sad, but all too common. So the question of will or trust isn't about being rich. It's about making sure your loved ones are taken care of without unnecessary stress. Number 2. What exactly is a will? Now let's talk about the simplest option: a will. A will is basically a letter you write that says who gets what when you die. You name an executor, the person in charge of making sure your wishes are followed. It's easy to create. You can even write one yourself in some states, though I always recommend having it checked by a lawyer. Here's an example. Say you have a car, a checking account, and a little bit of jewelry you want to leave to your kids. It will let you say, my daughter gets the car, my son gets the jewelry, and the rest goes equally. Sounds simple, right? But here's the catch: wills go through probate. That's the court process where a judge oversees everything. And probate can take months or even years in some cases. Plus, it's public. Anyone can see what you owned and who you left it to. So while a will works, it's not always the smoothest way. Number 3. What about a trust? Now let's get into trusts. A trust is more like a private box you put your assets into during your lifetime. You still control it, but when you die, everything in that box goes directly to who you chose. No court, no waiting. One very popular type is called a revocable living trust. Here's an example. You set up a trust, transfer your house, your bank accounts, and your investments into it. You name yourself as trustee while you're alive. Then you name someone else, your son or daughter, for example, as the successor trustee. When you pass, they take over instantly and distribute everything just as you wanted. No probate, no public record, no delays. Sounds perfect, right? Well, it does cost more to set up than a will. Lawyers usually charge anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 to draft a proper trust. But for many families, that upfront cost saves thousands later. Number 4. When a will is enough. So now you might be thinking, why doesn't everyone just get a trust? Good question. Here's when a will is probably enough. You have a very simple estate. No property in multiple states. No complicated family situations. And you're okay with your heirs waiting a few months to get everything. For example, if you're single, renting an apartment, with just a savings account and a car, a will is likely fine. It's cheap and simple, and you can always upgrade to a trust later if your situation changes. Number 5. When you really want a trust. On the other hand, here are some situations where a trust is a much better idea. First, if you own property in more than one state, because each state could force its own probate process otherwise, a trust avoids all of that. Second, if you have minor children, with a trust, you can make sure the money is managed properly until they're old enough. Third, if you want privacy. Remember, probate is public, but trusts stay private. Here's an example. One woman in Florida passed away with 2 houses, one in Florida and one in Georgia. Because she only had a will, her family had to go through probate in both states, which took 2 years. If she'd had a trust, they could have skipped all of that and settled things in just weeks. So a trust makes sense if you have real estate, a blended family, or you just want to save your heirs time and hassle. Number 6. Do you need both? Here's something most people don't realize. Even if you set up a trust, you still need a will. Why? Because a will can cover anything you forgot to put into the trust. It's called a pour-over will. Anything left outside the trust pours over into it. For example, you buy a car a month before you pass and forget to retitle it in the trust. The pour-over will catches it and sends it into the trust. So even if you have a trust, don't skip the will. Number 7. What about costs and maintenance? Let's talk numbers for a second. A simple will drafted by a lawyer usually costs between $300 and $1,000. A trust is more, usually between $1,000 and $300. And you'll still need to maintain a trust. That means updating it when you buy or sell property or open new accounts. Here's an example. A man in Texas set up a trust but forgot to move his newly purchased condo into it. When he passed, the condo still had to go through probate. So having a trust is not set it and forget it. You have to keep it updated. Number 8. Common mistakes to avoid. Now let's make sure you don't fall into the common traps. Mistake number 1. Thinking you don't need anything because you're young. Even if you're just 30 with a spouse and a baby, you need at least a will to name guardians. Mistake number 2. Not funding your trust. Setting up a trust and forgetting to put your assets into it is like buying a safe and leaving your jewelry on the table. Mistake number 3. Never updating. Life changes. Divorce, new kids, selling property. If you don't update, your plan won't work the way you want it. Number 9. Which one should you choose? So here's the big question you've been waiting for. Do you need a will or a trust? If your life is simple, a will might be enough for now. If you want to save your family from court delays, keep things private, or you own real estate, go for a trust. Here's a simple rule of thumb. If you can afford it, and you care about making things as smooth as possible for your heirs, a trust is worth it. If you're just starting out and need something quick, get a will in place right now. You can always upgrade later. Number 10. What happens if you do nothing? All right, here's the scary part. What if you don't make a will or a trust at all? Well, the state takes over. It's called intestate succession. That means your stuff gets divided up based on state law, not based on what you wanted. Here's an example. A man in Illinois passed without a plan. He assumed everything would go to his wife. But because of state law, half of his estate went to his kids, leaving his wife with just half and a mountain of stress. It's not just about money, either. If you have minor children and no plan, a judge will decide who raises them. It might not be who you would have chosen. So doing nothing is really the worst choice of all. Number 11. The emotional impact. Here's something most people don't think about. The emotional toll on your loved ones. Losing you will already be painful. Don't make it worse by leaving a big mess for them to clean up. Here's an example. 2 sisters in New Jersey didn't speak for 5 years after their father died without a plan. They fought over furniture, the house, even his old watch. All of it could have been avoided if he'd just written a simple will or set up a trust. So this isn't just about dollars. It's about preserving peace in your family. Number 12. The peace of mind factor. One of the best feelings in the world is knowing you've taken care of things. When you have a plan in place, you sleep better at night. Here's a great example. A single mom I worked with set up a trust for her 2 kids. She told me, "Now I feel like if anything happens to me, they'll be okay." That kind of peace of mind is priceless. It's not just about you. It's about giving your loved ones clarity and certainty when they need it most. Number 13. But what if you're broke? You might be thinking, I barely have anything. Do I really need this? Yes. Even if all you have is a bank account and a car. Here's an example. A young man in his 20s was killed in an accident. All he had was a beat-up truck, a savings account, and a life insurance policy. But because he never named anyone in a will, his parents and his girlfriend ended up in court battling over the little he had. So don't wait to get rich before you plan. Your loved ones will still need guidance no matter what you own. Number 14. How to take the first step today. So now you're probably wondering, what's next? Here's what I recommend. Step 1. Make a list of everything you own, even small things, cars, bank accounts, retirement plans, jewelry, even pets. Step 2. Think about who you trust to handle everything when you're gone. That's your executor or trustee. Step 3. Meet with an estate planning lawyer if you can afford it, or at least use a reputable online service to create a basic will. And remember, something is better than nothing. Even just writing your wishes down on paper and having it witnessed is better than leaving your family guessing. Number 15. Don't forget these extras. Wills and trusts are just one part of the plan. You'll also want to set up these two documents. A durable power of attorney, so someone can handle your finances if you become incapacitated, and a healthcare directive, so someone can make medical decisions for you if you can't speak for yourself. Here's an example. A man in his 40s was in a car accident and couldn't communicate for 3 weeks because he had a power of attorney and healthcare directive. His wife was able to pay the bills and approve his care without going to court. So don't stop with just a will or trust. Cover all your bases. Number 16. A quick recap before you go. Let's quickly sum this up so it sticks. A will is cheap, simple, but goes through probate. A trust costs more, but saves time, keeps things private, and avoids probate. Everyone needs at least a will. Some people, especially those with property or minor kids, should consider a trust, and doing nothing? Definitely the worst choice. So now you know the difference, and now you know the stakes. So here's what I want to know from you. If you had to choose today, would you pick a will, a trust, or both? And what's your biggest worry about estate planning? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story.